Hello everyone, my name is David Santiago Perez, and right now you're watching my portfolio. I made this website for the course of autonomy, and today we're gonna talk about three things. The first one is we're gonna talk about the differences that I found between me and my other subject, Dominik, which I'm gonna talk a little bit more further on. I'm gonna also talk about the experience of developing a portfolio for developing autonomy. And finally, what I learned from my parallel case, in this case, Dominik. All right, so let's start. Right now, we're on the profile case number one. This is me. I'm David Santiago Perez, and I'm a professor of English. I also know Italian, French, and a little bit of German. My case number two is Dominik. He's from Austria. He speaks Spanish, English, of course, German, and also a little bit of French. All right. Well, as for me, as I said in the beginning, I'm an English teacher, and Dominic is studying Spanish for teaching purposes, which is something we should add up to. All right. Now, these were the leading questions. This is something I wrote about. And I wanted to find out whether Dominic consider autonomy as something intrinsically performed or something extrinsically received. And the first question is, when did you realize you were an autonomous learner? The second one is, did any of your teachers inspire you to do so? And the third one is, in the case of learning languages, do you consider applying autonomy early on your process or later on when you're more experienced? The fourth one is autonomy absolute? Can you be ever an absolute autonomous learner, or there's something to consider about that? And finally, what is the role of pressure when dealing with autonomous learning processes? So in terms of the differences, we need to talk about methodology, metacognition, and language learning environments. Let's start for methodologies. Now, in my case, since I'm a teacher, I already apply autonomy with my students. I also incorporate strategies such as making lists, following schedules, and diversifying knowledge, such as if I read a book, I also need to watch a video or a movie about it. That's it for me. Now, for the case number two, which is Dominic, he is completely self-absorbed to vocabulary. Now, I must say, Dominic loves Spanish. He is completely passionate about Spanish. And so, in this way, he thinks that the best way to learn a language is just by learning the vocabulary. For example, if you were to learn Japanese, Dominic will grab a list of 200 words and learn them, um, memorize them. And so his autonomy is through mainly apps, in the case of memrise, and writing. He follows a diary. So that's how he applies autonomy in methodological terms. We also have here um, the language learning environments, which were very similar for me and Dominic. We both like virtual environments. However, I tend to show higher preference for virtual environments since Dominic prefers a combination with of um, virtual, real, and scholar environments. He thinks that having a teacher is extremely important when learning a language. Whereas I have learned a couple of languages where first I tried learning with a teacher and that never worked for me because most of the time I found that the methodologies were very traditional, like learning grammar, learning the parts of the speech and so on. I don't learn languages like that. And so in conclusion, in regards to language learning environments, I show that I prefer virtual environments. And that's the case of watching videos, movies, also finding native speakers and friends, and so on. Now, we're going to talk about the conclusive differences, which is another section that I make in this portfolio. And in this section, I evaluate the differences from three perspectives. One is the methodological awareness for autonomous language learning processes. How aware are you that you're an autonomous person? The metacognitive involvement, such as do you apply strategies or not? And the environmental preferences, which is something that we already talked a little bit about before. I was also forgetting the use of autonomy outside the scholar spectrum. Now, it's important to say that autonomy is not only something you apply in your daily life or in your language learning career. It's something that goes beyond that and something that needs a transversal performance, such as if you're an autonomous language learner, you also need to be autonomous when doing exercise, going to the gym, going to your office, and so on. And so I also talk about some differences we found between Dominik and myself. I also made some summary of the similarities and the differences. But let's go this one by one. Now, in regards to the methodological awareness for autonomous language learning processes, since I'm already a teacher, I'm already aware of the processes that I need to involve in order to be an autonomous learner, such as self-control, having schedules, also having pressure on myself. Whereas Dominik already applies that, which is something interesting, but he doesn't consider those as particularly beneficial for his autonomous learning career. Number two, the metacognitive involvement. I show awareness on the practices that allow me to be an autonomous learner. For example, I also like to do a lot of things before doing the work, such as if I have to write something, I make a list. And I'm aware that making that list will allow me to perform a better job. In the case of Dominik, he does those things, but he was not aware that it will have an impact on his autonomy. While we talk, because we made videos, he realized that that was incredible for him to learn, and he started doing it ever since we finished the call. Environmental preferences, I already talked a little bit about this, and it's that I prefer virtual environments, whereas Dominik prefers a combination of the three. In terms of psychology, I like relaxed environments. I don't like to have pressure from others. In terms of culture, I like to apply culture from the language I'm learning on to the comparative differences on my own culture. So let's say if I was learning French, I would like to be completely immersed in the French culture. That's how I regard culture in the language learning environment. Kind of like a simulation, I will say. I like seminars, collaborative environments, and simulations. Dominik likes to write a lot. He likes to have diaries. He likes to make summaries of books. He also likes to make reviews of movies. And he's doing that in order to improve his language learning experience. Now, the last one is autonomy outside the scholar spectrum. This was similar because Dominik and I do exercise. We go to the gym. Of course, with COVID, we were unable to go to the gym, but we still try to do so. And so we applied a lot of autonomy there. For example, we do certain exercise where we require preparation. We also require motivation, self-control, and so on in order to keep going on. Because, many people get into an exercise and they're doing well the first couple of minutes, the first couple of weeks, even months, but after some time they leave it off. It's like it's no longer part of their lives. And so we applied a lot of autonomy there. That's where the similarities that we found in these cases. Now, in regards to the portfolio, whether if I found it useful or not for the language learning of autonomy, I think it was a nice experience. I learned a lot of things from my parallel case, which was Dominik. And also Dominik told me that he started applying a lot of things from the conversations that we have. For example, Dominik told me that he liked to learn vocabulary, but he just learned the word. For example, mesa, comedor, ventana, and so on. But I told him it is important for you to learn that with context. So make a small sentence, and there's a better chance that you're gonna have a better learning experience. As for me, I learned that the use of apps is completely beneficial. I started using Memrise as well, which is something I was not inclined to doing because of the knowledge I have on acquiring language, which we should stay away from the grammatical aspect. But I started doing that, and it seems good. I like it. Now, finally, to conclude this video, I will say that the making of this portfolio was good. I think it was a good strategy. I appreciate that they allow us to do with someone we knew and that we show preference for doing, because in other courses we do these things with the classmates and it's a disaster. It never works. So I appreciate the designer for allowing us to have our autonomous decisions. Now that will be it. I appreciate your time for watching me, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.